Okay, now we'll go through two other dashboard components that can interact with a shell. First, we'll go back into our shell flow here and we will add another parameter, country ID, which is an integer, to our add command. And we'll also just return a success message here on an add. On all users, we'll return a few users with a name and country ID. Okay, so that's done. We'll go back to dashboards. The first component I want to show you is the form component. This maps to a single command and every parameter will become a field on the form. That's the same stream for our shell. And in the drop down, you can select your command, add. We'll talk about reference parameters a little later. Okay, so we've got our two parameters here, the country ID and name of user. Once we add it, there we go. That's sent the command over to our shell. The next dashboard component I want to show you is the CRUD, C-R-U-D here. Stands for create, read, update, and delete. And select the stream shell again. And this basically has one command each for each of those operations. You can drop down and select your list command. You can select your add command. Now delete and update, they're optional. Okay, so list, you can see that we automatically fetch those items from our shell and it displays that in the table. It'll have the properties here as columns in the table. And if you hit add, it's the same as having a form. Now, it looks like we need an ID for the country, but unfortunately, this means we'd have to memorize the ID, or maybe we'd have to do a list countries command here and check for the ID for the country that we want. It's not very user-friendly and it's error-prone. So we've actually implemented reference params for this problem. Okay, so we're in a different service here, in a different app that provides the countries. The command returns an array of JSON objects with the country code and the country name. Now these keys are important, country code and country name. If we look at the flow that implements this command, we can see that the label key is country name and the reference value key is country code. This means whatever value is at this country name key will be displayed as the text in our dropdown, and whatever value at the reference value key will be used for the actual value. We need to grant stream access to that app. So to do that, you need to log in to your Flow Director Management, go into Stream Access, select the app that you would like the stream to be available in. In our case, we called it the user service. Now you will have a list of all the apps and simply turn it on for the app whose stream you would like to access. In our case is Static Data Service. Okay, now back in our user service, we should have access to our new stream. We can go back to the dashboard editor. And we'll configure our form. And you can see that we do indeed have the static data stream here. We're going to keep this at the user service for now. For reference parameters, we're going to check country ID, which means we're going to use a value from a command. And that command is from the static data service. And the command we are after is list countries. Country ID of user. And this list countries command actually takes a parameter specifying whether we only want EU countries. We're going to go with false here. We're going to leave that use param field blank for now. And we'll click create. Okay, and because we've actually set the reference label and value keys correctly, you can see that the select will display the country names, but the value will actually be the country code, which is actually a string, not an integer. So we're expecting an integer here, but we're going to be submitting a string here. So if we submit, exactly, the value submitted, AU, is not a valid integer. But the point is you select the country name and the code is submitted. And that's the basics of reference parameters. Now you can take it a step further. If your reference command has a parameter it can actually use a parameter value that belongs to your original command. Our add command has two parameters, the country ID and the name of the user. The list countries reference command takes one parameter, whether you only want EU countries. So we can actually say, let's use the value of our name of the user. This will automatically use whatever value we provide for the name. So let's take a look. Right now, because we haven't provided a value, it's blank. It's still expecting an integer. But let's go false. And now, because we've said false, the reference command has been successfully sent, and we get a list of countries. We're going to go true and take a look. It's only European countries. Now, this is very useful in cases where you need to build dependent form fields where the select items in this field is dependent on whatever was selected in another field. For example, if a user has selected a product, you want to display a drop down of all the available plans. This lets you do that. And that's all to the form and CRUD component.